All right. Welcome, everybody, to 52 Living Ideas. This is Louis Sullivan's A System of Architectural Ornaments. And we are now on plate 2. In the previous program, we looked at the plate 1, which was development of the organic. And today we are going to be looking at the plate 2, which starts with different leaf forms. Leading the discussion today is Rupali. So Rupali, take it away.
Thank you, Shrikant. It's wonderful to see you all. I want to read from Kindergarten Chats, the chapter called Autumn Glory. Awake, awake the somatic splendor of this wondrous day, for morning is singing a crisp, cool, cheery song, so full of autumn's beauty and delight. Oh, hear its song, and hear my song, dull sleeper. So in Kindergarten Chats, Louis Sullivan is talking to a student, an architecture student, and is asking the student to go out of doors, to be outside and look at nature. And finally, by autumn, the student is able to take in what's going on outside and is able to kind of say, be a part of nature and be amazed by what's going on. And he goes on to say, Louis Sullivan says, how truly you, the student says to Louis Sullivan, how truly you said that the power of understanding lies in the imagination and the heart, that without imagination, without heart, we cannot grasp, we cannot understand, that to receive is a greater gift, a greater function than it is to give. And then further on, the student goes on to say, hereafter, great nature's out of doors shall be my temple, far, far more beautiful, more holy than the temple of the Roman or the Greek, and now and hereafter will I worship therein. And in the great out of doors of the oceans and lands of the world, my own land and my own people, shall my spirit freely move as a breeze through the forests and through the sky, by the light of the sun and the light of the stars, over land and sea, over river and plain. Why did the fools in my school tell me something? Why did not the fools in my school tell me something like this and work away at me until I understood its significance, instead of cramming me with pedantic stupidities for 4 long, weary years? Well, we must rectify it if it be not too late. And Louis Sullivan goes on to say, lovingly look at a big tree, he knocks all that nonsense out of me. There is grammar there, and syntax too, aplenty, and logic and function and form, and organization and rhythm and proportion, and above all, vitality, life, the harmonious expressions of divine creative energy. Then, if I grasp the essence of your thesis, it signifies that we, in our art, are to follow nature's processes, nature's rhythms, because those processes, those rhythms are vital, organic, coherent, logical, above all book logic, and flow uninterruptedly from cause to effect. And that we, being greater than trees, at least we think we are, and possessed of heart, imagination, mind, and sympathy of mind, and above all, gifted with spiritual insight, should use those faculties to give our art a power, a vital creative beauty that shall make with nature a harmony and not a discord. So I just wanted to share that explanation because in Kindergarten Chats, Louis Sullivan describes more than what we see in this book. So I want to share my screen here. So this is plate 2. And what we see here are the different leaf forms. So you have a thin blade of grass or a thin leaf. So these, I'm at the school and I'm just picking. So we just did a nature walk and the students for their botanical studies collected leaves. So here is the first one. And this is just from a park close by. And then you have more of an oblong leaf, a leaf that's more rounded, a leaf that is
Rupali, can you do one thing? Can you stop
triangular.
sharing? Because many people may not have the ability to switch easily. So if you could go through all those leaves one more time.
Okay, sure. So here you have a very thin leaf and an oblong leaf, a more rounded leaf, a leaf that's more triangular, a leaf that's shaped even more round, more like a diamond, and the leaf gets rounder. This is one of my favorite. And Sherri, this is, I just wanted to show you this. It just fell, but that's my ginkgo leaf. That's my ginkgo leaf earring. And then you have other leaves that have more lobes. So these are the lobed leaves. This is an oak leaf, and here's another oak leaf. Two oak leaves, but different types. You have a leaf that's lobed, but also more rounded. Right? Here are leaves that are more radial. These are all simple leaves. And then you have a compound leaf. So the compound leaf with stemming from one and going into the others. In Montessori classrooms, this is a study that students do. They'll go outside, they'll collect leaves, press them, and they match them to a chart that they have in the classroom. And they go and study the shapes. Then the teacher might take them on a scientific journey of looking at it under the microscope, or the art teacher might take them on an artistic journey of saying, look at these leaves and let's look at the colors or the shapes and what can we do from there. And that's how the work begins. So when I saw this plate too, I could not help but see the similarities between Louis Sullivan and Maria Montessori's work. Both of them look at nature for understanding life. And I want to go back to sharing my screen. Let me just make sure I can do that. So this is the book called Gray's School and Field Book of Botany that Louis Sullivan talks about. And for this was a book that was used in the 19th century for students to study botany. And it was a book that was used in colleges across Europe and US. Asa Gray was a doctor. He was a botanist. He also taught mineralogy in college. He taught chemistry. So he looked at science and religion as a united way of looking at life. So this is the book that Louis Sullivan refers to in the plates. I want to read a part of the preface where Gray says it is by no means indispensable for students to go through the volume before commencing with an analysis of plants. When the proper season for botanizing arrives, and when the first 12 lessons have been gone over, they may take lesson 28 and the following ones to study various wild plants and find in blossom in the manner illustrated in lesson 30. Their first essays will necessarily be rather tedious, if not difficult, but each successful attempt smooths the way for the next, and soon these technical terms and distinctions will become nearly as familiar as those of ordinary language. And I think that this familiarity, we look at trees, we look at the foliage, we look at the tree as a whole. But what the study with Gray School and Field Book of Botany does is it allows us to look at leaves as individuals. And I'm going to share a few plates from his book. Here's from the table of contents, where lessons 1 to 7 are about organic and inorganic, what he means by them. Then the structure of plants, and then lesson 7 is about the morphology of leaves. And Louis Sullivan uses the word morphology in this plate. So I just wanted to talk about what he means by that, morphology of leaves as foliage. So leaf is an individual, but leaf is also part of the foliage. So you can look at it as an individual leaf, or you can look at part of the foliage. And then he talks about species and kinds of leaves, how plants are viewed, to their relationship with the individual parts, and then the collective tree. So in the first lesson, Gray talks about the inorganic world and the organic world. And last week, we talked about the inorganic and the organic. And I just thought I would read out this part because Louis Sullivan perhaps also thinks about the organic and inorganic in this manner. The subjects of natural history are the earth itself and the beings that live upon it, the inorganic world or the mineral kingdom, the earth itself with the air that surrounds it, and all things naturally belonging to them which are destitute of life, make up the mineral kingdom or the inorganic world. These are called inorganic or unorganized because they are not composed of organs, that is, of parts which answer to one another and make up a whole, such as is a horse, a bird, or a plant. They were formed, but they did not grow, nor proceed from previous bodies like themselves, nor have they the power of producing other similar bodies, that is, of reproducing their kind. On the other hand, various living things, or those which have possessed life, compose of, and then he goes on, the organic world, the world of organized beings. These consist of organs, of parts which go up to make an individual, a being. And each individual owes its existence to a preceding one like itself, that is, to a parent. It was not merely formed, but produced. At first, small and imperfect, it grows and develops by powers of its own. It attains maturity, becomes old, and finally dies. It was formed of inorganic or mineral matter, that is, of earth and air indeed, but only of this matter under the influence of life, and after life departs, sooner or later, it is decomposed into earth and air again. So here's a definition of organic and inorganic to consider. And then in his work, he goes on to talk about the leaf shapes that we just looked at. So these are simple leaves. And then we looked at the oak leaves, which are lobed leaves. We also looked at some leaves that are lobed, but have perhaps radial veins. These are more rounded leaves that we can see. And on the bottom, you can see the apex of all different types of leaves that they differ. So then here are leaves. I just showed one of those, the triangular leaves that you can see. And on the bottom, you see the toothed margin. So margin is the edge of the leaf. And in the first diagram, you see the margin is very smooth. Whereas if you take an oak leaf, you will see that the margins have edges that are sharp. So they're like, they're toothed edges or serrated edges. And then I guess this, the radial leaf is at the bottom. Sorry about this picture. I think it got overlapped. So I want to read this part. We may call foliage the natural form of leaves and look upon other sorts of special forms as transformed leaves. By this term meaning only that we would have been ordinary leaves under, I'm sorry, I'm going to read that again. As transformed leaves, by this term meaning only that what would have been ordinary leaves under other circumstances, as for instance, those on shoots of mint. We can see that mint leaves grow upright in air instead of creeping on the ground. They are developed in special forms to serve some particular purpose. For the great author of nature, having designed plants upon one simple plan, just adapts this plan to all cases. So whenever any special purpose is to be accomplished, no new instruments or organs are created for it. But one of these general organs of the vegetable, root, stem, or leaf is made to serve the purpose and is adapted to it by taking some particular form. So thinking about just the design ideas, and we can see how Louis Sullivan also talks about going from whole to the parts, that when he talks about integrity of a structure, this is what he is meaning, that when you are designing, when you're thinking of the whole, all the parts will fit in it, and because they're connected to the purpose, not just applied for the reason of for decoration. It is the study of the varied forms under this view that constitutes morphology and gives this part of botany such great interest. We have already seen stems and roots under a great variety of forms, but leaves appear under more various and widely different forms and answer a great variety of purposes than do both other organs of the plant put together. So why is Louis Sullivan also choosing leaves to look at? It's just because of the sheer variety that you can have right outside your door. You can step out and you can look at the large variety, and you can then look at what the purpose is. Why does the leaf grow in that particular manner? We have to consider then leaves as foliage and leaves as something else than foliage. As we have just been noticing cases of leaves that are not foliage, we may consider these first and enumerate the principal kinds. So he's talking about leaves and the variety that we have, and leaves being part of the tree, but they also are complete in their own form and their own purpose. So This book is available online and it's free. You can download a PDF, it's in the public domain. But I'm just picking up different parts from this book. It's a fantastic book for anybody who would love to learn botany, or just the diagrams are beautiful. So lesson 28, species and kinds. Until now, we've been considering plants as to their structure and their mode of life. We have, as it were, been reading the biography of an individual plant, following it from the tiny seedling up to the mature and fruit-bearing herb or tree, and learning how it grows and what it does. The botanist also considers plants as to their relationships. Plants and animals, as is well known, have two great peculiarities. First, they form themselves, and second, they multiply themselves. They reproduce themselves in a continued succession of individuals. I think this is the part that really is very interesting. Mineral things occur as masses, which are divisible into smaller and still smaller ones without alteration of their properties. But organic things, vegetables and animals, exist as individual beings. Each owes its existence to a parent and produces similar individuals in its turn. So each individual is a link of a chain, and to this chain, the natural historian applies the name of species. And so he goes on to talk about species. All the descendants from the same stock are therefore compose one species, and it was from our observation that the several sorts of plants and animals steadily reproduce themselves, or in other words, keep up a succession of similar individuals, that the idea of species originated. So we are to conclude that the creator established a definite number of species at the beginning, which have continued by propagation, each after its kind. So I just think this text kind of helps us to say, okay, now let's look at this plate. It gives the context of where Louis Sullivan is coming from. I don't have any drawings today, but I just wanted to talk about the first plate. If we just look at the shape of the leaves, and we can see the variety that exists in nature, and we can arrange them. And when you look at the leaf, I know that if I'm sharing my screen, you can't see perhaps what I'm showing on in my hand, but they all have a line of symmetry or an axis of symmetry. And you can see that that's the vertical axis. And if you look at the shapes, the leaf shapes in the lower section, the compound leaf shapes, you can have axis on the horizontal or the radial directions. So this is not the best drawing. I've just taken Louis Sullivan's plate and enlarged the pictures to show. He's taken number 7, leaf number 7. So if you look at this, it's the leaf at the very end, which is shaped like a heart. And he's morphing the leaf. He's used the term morphology with the idea that there is variation, and it is a natural variation. You can go through systematic changes, and so he's just depressing that heart shape at the at the apex of the leaf. He's just depressing it further and further till you get it almost like a V-shaped depression, and by depressing that, you're expanding on the horizontal axis. And so number 6, 7, 8, 9, you can see the leaf being stretched in that direction. And so the 2 points, by making in number 7, you can see there are two accentuated points now across the vertical axis, and there are two similar ones at the bottom. And so the leaf shape that was a simple heart-shaped leaf is now more like a V-shaped leaf with two vertical points that can be the topmost finial, so to say, of the design. And then he has, if we continue to look at 8, 9, and 10, now there is, for the plates, now it's moved from the organic to a design that is stemming from his imagination. That now he is using his freedom, his imagination to say, okay, where does this go? And now he has vertical axis as well as a lower horizontal axis. And along that vertical axis, one of the things, if you look at leaves and trees and plants, especially vines, you can see that they have these tendrils that continue to go upwards. And the form, if you look at a compound leaf, let me just a compound leaf, you can see that the form on the top is continues to give it, it doesn't just end abruptly, but it has like a upward movement. If you look up at the sky and look up towards the trees going up, you can always see that upward. They don't just abruptly end. There are these little small details that are, whether it's a small leaf or twigs or buds or flowers, that's what the top is. And this numbers 8, 9, and 10 remind me of that detail. And then if you look at 11, 12, you can see the shape in between, where the valley is formed now between the 2 points, is another leaf shape, basic leaf shape that is taking form to then form a more intricate design. Almost by the time it gets to number 14, looks like a forest than a leaf. And so this progression of going from a simple form to a more complex form is what Louis Sullivan calls it a systematic change. It's not just a random thing, but because the axes are maintained, because the directionality of the veins of the leaf are maintained, it seems very natural. The design seems very natural. And yet it is designed by a human hand. And you can see this is one way of looking at, design, staying true to nature or staying in harmony with nature. And so then we come to these two. I actually was drawing this, the first motif, number 13. And I was drawing different stages of the motif based on the leaf shape, but I'm at school today and not at home, so I don't have that. But you can take a simple leaf that is oval in shape, and you can see the verticality, the vertical axis, and the veins. Again, notice that the veins are not straight, that the veins are curved. And if you look at a leaf shape, you can see very clearly that the leaf has curved veins. They are not at right angles to each other. And the base has a triangular base at the end. So it's like this leaf that I'd shown before with 2 lobes at the bottom, a triangular leaf. And then it continues with an upward movement, one circle that encloses almost like an embryo in the middle. And from where all the branches are stemming out, again going upward movement, and then crossing up towards where the leaf would end, and then moving upward towards the finial. And the top almost looks like a peacock's head with feathers on top, but or flowers petals up there. And the second motif, motif number 12, again has that vertical, but it's more a lobed leaf origin, a triangular leaf with with a horizontal axis at the bottom going outwards and the middle going upwards. No right angles here. You can see everything is curved and flows very naturally in this. So I'm going to stop share, and I want to just show you. I have my I was going to do temples in Indian architecture, but I thought I'd just focus on the leaves today. So instead of architecture, I actually have a sari, which is a 6-yard cloth that is draped. Indian women use that as their everyday clothing. And this sari that I'm going to show is actually my mother-in-law's wedding sari. And this has the leaf motif. So let me just fold it and show the motif a little more closely. Let's see. So you can see this is the, it's like an oblong leaf, but the oblong leaf is then broken into two pairs of leaves with a vine that's growing outward. And then if you look at the finial, the top, it has a blossoming kind of a top to it. So here's one design, and then another design. This is from northern part of India. It's a pillow cover. So these are walnut leaves, and again derived from, you can see geometry is the same, but you can call it the seed-germ. You can see the seeds and then the flowers on the top and the leaves. So in so many cultures, you will see these motifs of leaves and flowers. So I just think that in this plate, Louis Sullivan invites us to look at nature, to learn from nature, to take in all the variety that nature has to offer, and then think of a design that think of designing in a way that is organic and in harmony with nature. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Rupali. That was fantastic. And I'm glad that you brought in the Gray's botany into this, because it just shows you the kind of the both. See here, this is a place where science and art go together, because that's what, Louis Sullivan is doing. He's looking at core of science and core of art, and he's saying, okay, what is the generative element there? And I particularly love the quotation you read from Kindergarten Chats. That was a great place to start, because it's saying that, I'm starting with the temple of nature. I'm going to take in everything and how things naturally grow, make that a part of me, and then I'm going to express that. That's so wonderful. Thank you. Next up, Rob, would you like to go next?
Yeah, I can do that for a few minutes. I don't have a whole lot prepared today, but I got a couple things I want to talk about. So can I do, let's see if I can do a screen share. And, oh, wow. Okay. Preview. Allow Zoom. Okay, if you give me a second here. Ha! Okay, there we go. No, what happened is I bought a new computer to give the old one to Oscar. And what I'm not realizing, okay, so if you can do something else for about 2 minutes, I have to quit and reopen Zoom in order to be able to allow it to share a screen.
Sounds good. Sounds
So
good.
if using everything for the first time on my computer, there are all these little things that I haven't
As you always say in such situation, discuss amongst yourself.
discussed amongst yourselves. I'll be right back.
I will do that. All right. So I want to say that I was saying this before the meetup started. I'm a very odd student. Sometimes I will do exercises that the teacher has not prescribed, and sometimes I will get hung up on a beginning exercise, and I want to keep working on it until I get a good hang of it. And this is the case this time. I'm still working on the inorganic part. And so just like as Rupali was talking, I have this, let me see if I can show you. Yeah. So you can see it, these fractal natures of things are quite amazing. And of course, I'd shown this last time. This is the 3D version of it, of the 3-part. This is like the tetrahedral symmetry. This one is called Sierpinski's triangle. So this entire thing over here. So I'm doing Sierpinski's triangle, and with what I'm drawing over here is the skeleton of the Sierpinski's triangle. So I'm focusing not on the triangles themselves, but the radial movement going from the center to the edges of the triangle. And that's all that is, being drawn here. So I've been working on that, and the kinds of patterns that come, I'm also working on. I have a surprise thing. I had ordered it a while ago, but it is coming. It's being delivered in the next hour or two, hopefully. I have an octahedral version of this. So from tetrahedron going to octahedrons, and that produces very, very interesting effects. So I look forward to sharing those. So Rob, whenever you're ready, just let me know. You can take your time. You're on mute though. Oh, just a second. Wait a minute. My fault. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was saying host won't let you unmute.
Yes.
Okay, I'm back now. Now let me see if I can share a screen. Okay, now I can share a screen. All right. Yes, this week has been a minefield of finding out all the little things that every program I have. I transferred everything over from the old computer automatically, but it's finding every little thing on every little program that needs to be. I need to put in a password in again or whatever to make it work. All right, so now you have the System of Ornament showing up here.
Yes.
Okay, great. So yeah, first of all, I want to say how much I liked Rupali talking about the Gray's book and reading the things on morphology from him, because that's really super useful to know, this is where he was getting these terms, and to know what it means in its original version. So that in his first, when he uses simple leaf forms at top, he says, by manipulation, any of these forms may be changed into any of the others through a series of systematic organic changes known technically as morphology. So that's where he's drawing from that botany background. But I think it's interesting. He says any of these leaves can be changed into any others. So it's this like universal system for changing anything to something else. Then he goes to the compound leaf forms, which is the second row of images. And then the next set here, this is the most interesting thing to me. He says the third one, where he gives this long. So he starts with number 7 above. This is the upper right here. This one, and he says, let's take that and let's develop and do things with it. But here's what he says. He says, technical morphology, again, taking a leaf form, turning it into another leaf form, of number 7 into number 12. Plastic changes. Plastic means, some pulling something apart, making it plastic in the sense of being pliable, of being moldable to any shape, following nature's method of liberating energy. All right, so there's a lot in there. So the interesting thing, the thing that's a revelation to me about reading this now that I hadn't really realized before, as I think I said a couple times ago, that what always confused me about Sullivan's ornament is they kind of look like leaf forms. They look like leaves and flowers. They look like these very organic vegetal forms, I should say. But they're not really identifiable as a specific plant, right? So they have this leaf-like look, but it's not, oh, this is the, it's not like in Christopher Dress or some of these other things, or William Morris. You can say, oh, this is oak leaves, and he uses a motif. Or this is sumac leaves, or this is, a particular kind of leaf. Is a leaf-like, but it's not really a specific leaf. And that's what he's showing here, is he's saying he started with an organic form, a leaf form, but he's changing it into another form that's not another leaf form, but it's something created following nature's method. So he's like, if I were to evolve a new leaf from an existing leaf, essentially, here's how I might do it. So it's not it's not an existing leaf form. It's something that might have evolved in using the same method from an existing plant or leaf form. And then the second part about that I think is interesting is that the idea of liberating energy. So he's now giving you sort of the organizational principle. Sorry, I've got light suddenly pouring through my window here, but hopefully, there we go. He's giving you the organizational principle for how it is that he's doing this. He's following nature's method. Well, what is the basic impetus of nature's method? Well, the nature's method is liberating energy. So what he's doing with he does all these extra variations on things and all these extra details. At each point, it's like energy is exploding out of each little node of this design. So he creates, okay, you have, and if we take this set of small illustrations here, where he's going from this very simple sort of slightly heart-shaped leaf, and then makes it more heart-shaped. Notice one of the things he's doing is he's always sort of having it bud off or explode out from every little point, every little valley, every little point, every little curve. He's saying, well, let's make a knob grow out of that, and then let's make more knobs grow out of that knob, and then let's have things radiate out from there. So it's always the idea of taking every point of the design and then liberating energy from it, having something explode or grow out of it, as if that, every part of it, every point of it becomes a new node of energy that can have new things radiate out from that. And then each one of those things becomes a new node of energy that has things radiating out from that. So that, I think, sort of, and I wish I'd had time this week, because, Sherri got COVID-ified. So we're all a little under pressure here, but I wish I had time. I really want to go. I'm going to go back for next week, and I'm going to go take this idea of how can you take a leaf form. I think I might take one of the other leaf forms and say, let's see if I could take it out. Maybe I can do it from, we see this as there's 14 stages in this one. Maybe I can do 14. I don't think I'm going to get anywhere near where he's got down below. But I think I'd like to try that and say, okay, how can I take a form, a shape, and then do that principle of every little spot, every point, every valley becomes a node from which new things can explode. Then you explode things from the things that just exploded, and you get that sort of tremendous detail that he's getting here. But I find that to be very enlightening as to how it is that he's doing this and the principle he's using for it. And I think that's why he takes something that he says it comes from nature, but it's not copying nature. It's using the same principle. And then I think what he's going to do next, in the next plate, or what I know he's going to do in the next plate, he's going to say, let's start with something inorganic. Let's start with something that, well, here's our next plate. Let's start with something that is very geometrical. So this is very inorganic, and it's very much using human abstraction to create a simple geometric form. And then how could we have forms that multiply out of that? So he's starting with, okay, we're going to take an organic form and create things using the principle of nature to create new, forms out of something that started organic. And the next stage is going to say, let's take something that starts inorganic or something that starts purely abstract and geometrical, and then let's, using the principle of nature, the liberation of energy, let's create new things that come out of that. So I think I'm really looking forward to being able to actually get a try of doing this now that I understand what the basic idea is that he's using. And you can see, though, that this, it's something he takes from nature, but can apply to any one of man's powers. So that's why he starts with man's powers. This thing of following nature's method of liberating energy can now be applied to anything that comes from any of man's powers, including, next plate next week, the starting from the human power of creating geometric abstractions, and then we can apply the same principle to that. So I don't know if I have a lot more to say about this, but this is sort of the idea that I've got, the new thing I've learned from this that helps me understand Sullivan's method and his approach.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Rob. I want to build on that. I want to
stop screen share, by the way.
What's that?
You stop the screen share. Here we go.
Okay. This is wonderful, Rob. So I want to build on what you said. Remember there was one couple of sentences in the introduction where he says, you have to put yourself in the place of the seed germ. You have to place yourself in the place of the seed germ and see and use your imagination to grow. That's exactly what is going on. So he's starting with a natural form, and then he's placing himself and say, okay, if I was a seed germ, and that gives you a tremendous flexibility, because you don't have to be exactly the same seed germ. You can take a different motif and apply it at that point. So it is that idea of kind of abstracting things from nature, principles of operation from nature, drinking in nature in a massive quantity, so that you have fluency with the way in which nature works, and then doing a combination which is new to nature, because nature produces in a certain way. Like the oak tree will have only certain DNA, and it will produce its leaves in a certain format. But you can see a different format of growing somewhere else, and you can take the oak tree as a base, and then oak leaf as a base, and add that. Now it will still look organic. It will still have the beauty because it is coming from the same source. So it is use of man's imagination sitting on the top of observation of nature to produce something which is new. So you're transforming nature. You are adding to nature using your imagination. The idea of liberating energy is also a very fundamental thing. And that's why I want to show you the fractals again. That's exactly what is going on here. Because like you look at this, initially you can look at it as just these lines over here, just 3 lines going. And then you can go further and you can say that this part is exactly the same. You go further, this part is exactly the same. You go further, this part is exactly the same. So it's the same pattern being applied again and again and again and again recursively, which produces this amazing things. That's what is going on here. You have this tetrahedron as a whole, and then this little tetrahedron is exactly like that. 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 So it's like multiple levels of things going on. And this is relatively mechanical. So this is like the same pattern, mathematical pattern being used again and again. But what he's saying is that you take that and you take all the fractal things you can do and then apply it. Similarly, you take something from organic things, because there is a much more, the patterns there, the organic patterns are based on the same kind of things happening, but at a cellular level. So it has a much more flexible patterns, but the core of the patterns are similar. So that's what he's trying to get at. So that shows both how he's deriving things from nature and adding to nature for the first time.
Well,
Go ahead.
And Trick, I was going to say that with the fractal, you're doing the same thing over and over again. And what Sullivan is doing is saying, no, let's do something different each time,
Yes.
but based on the same principle of the liberation of energy, but in a new direction each time, and that's why they get so much more complex.
Exactly. So I mean, I wanted to show you with, for example, if I were to take this is based on tetrahedron. I'm going to get, I have a small version of it here. So let me show it to you. I have a small version. This is a octahedral pattern. Okay. It has the same kind of, but you can see the density.
Also known as a D&D die, but that's,
yeah. Yes.
you have to roll, 1 out of 8. Yeah.
Yes. But this is actually a fractal. You can't see it properly here, but I'll get the bigger version. It should come in hopefully in the next hour or two. So I'll definitely have it for the next time. So it's the same. So it's like and again, here we are looking at just straight lines. Here, there he's looking at curves. Here we are just looking at one pattern being repeated over and over. If I were to combine these two together, then it would have a much more kind of it will have much more complexity. I will be going between the two things, but yes, thank you, Rob. Iris, you're next. If you could unmute, please.
Okay. I have a million things to show you because I'm a graphic designer. I do this kind of thing all the time. So this was just a plain white fan. And let's see if, yeah. And so I did different leaf shapes on each part of the fan. And then some patterns at the top. This is an ad that was in I think it's clothing. Yeah, Balenciaga and Alexander McQueen. And let's see if I can get this so you can see it. But it has a leaf shape or really a seed shape. I thought was fun to see. Let's see. Oh, this is a fern card that I have, which is, all repeats. This is a leaf, paper leaf that is just particularly beautiful that I always keep out. This is a plastic leaf, and I don't know, how, if there's something that's just like it in real life or not. This is a shape. This was part of a Bible, I think 1400s, and there was space at the end of a line, so they had to fill it in with something. So they filled it in with this, and then it was turned into a piece of jewelry. I have something that I'll try and have for the next meeting. I did a card one year that was a fantasy on ginkgo leaves. And right now it's on the wall, so I can't get it down. I've found a number of leaves that have been coated in gold, so you can wear them. There's one that's a fern. I grow fern, by the way, fern and liverwort and moss and some vines. I love heart-shaped leaves. And this leaf has been put in soil until nothing is left but the vines. And then it's all open work between the vines and dipped in gold. There's another, this is even finer veining. And I like the edge here. That's extra interesting. This is sold as a bookmark, and I don't know where it came from. all of my keys have unusual tops that are worked out of the same design. There's even tiny bees. I don't know what plant this is, but it's very, very beautiful little guy. I do paintings. I think of them as murals because they're usually 10, 20 times larger than the actual thing I'm painting. So this is a fern that I grew and then painted. And so that's probably 10 times life size. I love this leaf, trying to remember the name of the plant, noble liverwort. And so it's three, each leaf is 3 heart shapes joined together. And then for years I did stained glass ornaments. This is 8 different leaves and flowers that I drew, and then I had them put on Xerox, clear Xerox, and then I cut them and taped them together. And again, I don't know what this comes from, but this is just a plastic leaf. But I love seeing it. It's sort of like parsley. I love seeing shape after shape. This I keep beside my computer. This is God, there's some name for it. This is what grows in the coldest parts of the world, and a lot of 3-lobe leaves, and then frost on them. And I was sent a sale from Walgreens. I could get a pillow made for $10 or something. And so I spent a few days and created a pattern. And this is the pattern, and it's all sorts of ferns and leaves. And let's see if I get kind of the sense of all of it.
Beautiful.
Thank you. And then I discovered a design shape called cusp and foil. And let's see, there's a pattern. The cusp is the point, and the foil is round. And so I did just hundreds of patterns, and I would pick something, a leaf shape, or a crown or a dress, and figure out what happened when I turned it into a cusp and foil.
Wow.
So that's what surrounds me in my apartment, and what I do for fun.
Wow. Iris, that was just amazing. Thank you so much. That was just amazing.
Oh, one more thing. There's a typeface I like, a decorative typeface, and again, it's the same kind of thing. And there's a whole alphabet of these, and they have, some of them have people as part of it, but mainly they're leaf shapes. Hey.
Wonderful. Thank you, Iris. If anybody has any comments on this, Rupali, what would you like to say?
Those were beautiful, Iris. I was so busy trying to sketch some of those ideas. Those are fantastic. I love the quatrefoil hydrangea shaped flowers that you did, and then from there went into different forms of the same idea of cusp and foil.
Yeah,
So we have hydrangeas at our school, and the students love to draw those, and it's part of the geometric shapes they study too.
Great.
And ferns are especially I'm especially fond of ferns. In India, you have a variety of ferns that just kind of come up during the monsoons, and some have silverback that you can press on your hand and you can get an imprint of the fern.
Huh.
So just such a variety of leaves and life around us. It's amazing.
Thank you, Iris, and thank you, Rupali. Next up is Penny. Penny, go ahead.
Here I am. Oh, well, I've really enjoyed this. It's really fantastic what we're learning. I did, after Rupali showed, I had to run and get these from my living room, because these are a couple pillows that were designed by an artist at the Arlington Art Center. I used to be the chairman of the board there. And here's another one. And, you know, I thought they were beautiful. And it's definitely, you know, designed the fabric and wove it. It's, you know, the leaf designs. So I just thought, you know, it's such a beautiful part of the world. I did, I don't know, you can't really see this maybe. I did kind of do the plate. I don't know. Well, it doesn't show. I don't know where to, too much light. Well, you can't see it, but I had a drawing that I had done of, but I don't think it's going to show.
No, we can see it. We can see it.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
You just have to hold it steady for a little while. Yeah, that's good. That's perfect.
Oh, okay. So this was my design using like organic. I created this design, and but I after we've talked some about this method of morphology, I think I'm going to do another one because this was like kind of multiple leaves, but maybe trying to kind of have more like one and just morphing out.
Penny, can you show your drawing of the plate again? Yeah, just hold it steady so we can see it. Oh, wow. Okay. Wow. That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
And then the last thing I did, which was from last week, because once Rob had shown his and I saw the different planes and I could see more clearly what it was, I did redo that, because I thought it was very intriguing the way the different planes, you could see them, and the way that they related, like in kind of impossible ways to really like be in front and behind. But I thought his was so nice. I had taken a picture of it when it was on the screen. And so I took the picture from my phone and used it to do this.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Penny. All right. So folks, anybody else has any comments? Go ahead on this plate, on everything that has been said so far. If you have any comments, you're welcome to offer them. So what we're going to do, folks, is Sherri is indisposed. So what we will do is next time, if Sherri wants to do more on this plate, we will do that. And we will also start off with plate 3. So you can start working on the plate 3. I don't know if Rupali, if you have any ideas about what people should do with plate 3, or we can just keep focused on plate 2 and build on it. But if either works.
I was just typing in chat to Sherri what's her idea, but I can share mine.
Yes.
Geometric shapes are all around us. And I would say, look for geometric shapes that we see in nature. And take those shapes and look at the next plate, plate 3. We've looked at the axis in the leaves, vertical, horizontal, and as well as the radiating axis. Shrikant, you've done a nice job with the fractals. I would say take one shape, try to have another shape working with it, or you can rotate the same shape multiple times on one axis. See what happens, what do you get from it? Or you can choose to impose one shape onto another, or within inscribing or kind of having shapes around them. So try playing with geometric shapes and see where the forms can evolve from there.
Wonderful. Thank you. I want to show you what can be done. So for example, don't know whether you can see it properly here. Give me a second here. Just a second. So you can see that you can take these same shape and you can morph it too. So you can kind of take it and, apply some transformations to the shapes themselves. In addition to combining, combination shapes, you can also do the morphing of shapes. Iris, you're next.
I just wanted to mention there's a series of designs that I love. I discovered them about 20 years ago. I haven't been back to see if they still exist, but there was a time in New York where there were sari shops, Indian clothing, and almost everything that was printed came from Japan. And so you were looking at, for a woman's kind of suit outfit, Saur Dapata kameez. It's a scarf, a top, and slacks. And the scarf was very complex, and then the blouse was simpler, and sometimes the pants had no pattern on them at all. But you were looking at something made for Indian women to buy, and yet the designs were all Japanese. And I have beside me here a piece of fabric that I can't get untaken right now. There's stuff on it, but it's Japanese cherry blossoms, but it's made for Indian women to wear. So it's just fascinating to see different cultures play with their designs.
Yes, and next time Rupali is going to be talking about the patterns from India. So that's going to be a lot of fun. All right, folks. So thank you so much. I think this series is off to a great start. And all of us are working, not just showing what patterns, we're partly showing patterns that we've been, we have loved before, as well as creating the patterns, as well as trying to copy what Sullivan is doing and trying to learn from it. So I think this is off to a great start. All right, folks. So we'll see you soon. Next week, we'll do kind of continuation of plate 2 and plate 3. All right. Rupali, any concluding thoughts you want?
I think we should just go explore nature. There's the organic forms as well as the inorganic forms in nature, and use our imagination to create something else. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. And by the way, Inorganic and Organic covers everything that is out there. So you can, so there is no limit to what you can draw inspiration from and what you can try to build. All right. So
I'll just show one frame. These are leaves and flowers from India that I have on my table always. So
wonderful. Thank you very much, everybody. See you soon. Bye.